was strictly controlled and censored by the communist government. Every aspect of religion, including sermons, was subject to the Communist Party lines. And those who did not
Could you speak up a little bit?
And those who did not adhere to the party censorship faced religious persecution. To see the impact that censorship had on religion, I researched how religion was affected by censorship and communism. The history of religion in the Czech lands is important because it shows the citizens' determination to fight for religious freedoms. One key historical event was when missionaries developed the first literary Slavic language called the Old Church Slavonic language. This language was extremely important in the translation of the Bible and also in creating a set language to pray to God in. After the creation of this language, Christianity began to spread rapidly throughout the Czech lands. The main religion at this time was Catholicism. However, with the increasing spread of religion came viewpoints that differed with the Catholic Church. A few of these included doubt over the transubstantiation of the Eucharist, the concept of the church body as made up of those who are predestined for salvation, not necessarily the clergy, but not the Pope, but Christ himself at their head. Denial of the existence of purgatory, rejection of the sacrament of confession, and questioning the hierarchical organization of the church, and rejecting monastic orders. John Wycliffe, a key figure in the Protestant Reformation, criticized the Catholic Church in his writings. These writings helped spread the different viewpoints on religion which angered the Catholic Church. This ultimately led to the Catholic Church banning John Wycliffe's writings. Because of this, the Protestants rose up, which started the Reformation in the Czech lands. The main leader of this Protestant reform movement was John Huss. However, the Catholic Church did not approve of Huss's work and declared him a heretic. The Church eventually executed Huss at the stake. Although Huss was executed, his works were still able to influence Martin Luther and eventually led to a Reformed Church in the Czech lands. This Reformed Church came to be known as the Hussite Church and is the second major church in Czechoslovakia. The Reformation continued with further disputes between the Protestants and Catholics. One of the disputes occurred after the Protestants believed they were being oppressed by the Catholics. Because of this, a few Protestants threw 2 Catholic Lord Regents and a secretary out of a window in Prague. This event came to be known as the Prague Euphemisation. This event also helped spark the 30 Years' War. However, the Catholics were victorious and declared the state religion as Catholicism. After the communists officially took over in 1948, religion began being censored. The Catholic Church experienced the most censorship because the communist government knew their allegiance was to the Pope instead of the government. The churches in Czechoslovakia underwent several changes because of the communist views on religion. For example, in 1949, the state assumed responsibility for the financial needs of the churches, but in return for giving the churches rather stingy support, the state demanded that they yield to the state authority over most of their affairs. The regime also placed numerous communist members inside the church. This allowed the regime to watch the clergy and ensured that they abstained from influencing their congregations in ways that were contrary to the wishes of the party. Preachers were only allowed to preach after receiving a license, which had to be granted from the state and could be taken away from at any time. Preachers also had to have everything, including their sermons, approved by the regime before they could give that sermon. In an effort to try and win religious citizens over to communism, the Communist Party created alternative ceremonies for various religious ceremonies. For example, the party created an alternative baptism ceremony in which they welcomed the child to the community. To illustrate how the party set up these alternative ceremonies to mirror the religious ceremonies, I will be showing 2 clips. The first is from the movie The Joke and shows the party alternative to a baptism. In this service, the child is welcomed to the party, and there are also no religious activities that go on. It's just strictly official.
Překrásnou vitální do života nově narozených vašich dětí, ve které budou vyrůstat zachrování péči rodičů, státu a všeho pracujícího.
A nyní projednáme případ soudruha Jána.
The second clip shows how a Czech baptism is done after communism and censorship. In this service, the child is welcomed to the church, and you can tell the difference by how religious it is.
Lenko, já tě křtím ve jménu Otce i Syna i Ducha Svatého. Ježíše Krista, Syna Panny Marie, naplňuje.
Along with religious censorship came religious persecution. In an effort to further censor churches, numerous individuals, including priests, were arrested. Mass arrests of priests took place in 1949. Especially severe sentences were handed down to church leaders. Many other priests, monks, and nuns were jailed or forced into labor on farms or in factories. Charges leveled against those who were brought to trial were usually treason, espionage, and subversive contacts with the Vatican. The government closed convents and monasteries and strictly limited admissions to the two remaining seminaries. During the Stalinistic trials of the 1950s, more than 6,000 religious people, some old and sick, received prison sentences averaging more than 5 years apiece. Between 1948 and 1968, the number of priests declined by half, and half the remaining clergy were over 60 years of age. During this time of heavy censorship, all religious freedoms were done away with, and those who continued practicing their religion risked persecution.
Where religious censorship took away most religious freedoms in Czechoslovakia, censorship of music took away Czechoslovakia's freedom to speak through songs. A dissident person who actively challenges an established doctrine, policy, or institution. Therefore, dissident music is a style of music that involves deep lyrics that denounce those same things. In Czechoslovakia, dissident music denounced communism. Through extensive research, I found that dissident music is what gave Czechoslovakians their voice back during the times of communism. In order to have a deep understanding of dissident music in Czechoslovakia, one must look at the times before, during, and after communism. Starting with before, there were two main influences on dissident music. First is Bedřich Smetana, pictured on the right. He was among the first to provide a national identity, a sense of national identity which gave pride to a nation and said exactly what the people were saying. National identity was a precursor to dissident music. Without it, the country couldn't band together to fight communism. Prague jazz was also an influence on dissident music by providing a means of self-expression. Jazz was one of the early forms of band music in Czechoslovakia. Because of this, many composers took on a dissident role in their writing and performing, thus kicking off dissident music in Czechoslovakia. After the age of Smetana and Prague jazz, communism arose. As the government took away almost every aspect of people's freedom, the music was heavily affected. It became more serious and poetic, and bands began denouncing the government. Therefore, folk music became dissident music. Communist leaders were not accepting of their form of government being denounced, and they began to ban it. One of the bands was the Plastic People of the Universe, seen here. The Czech reader defines them as the main representative of the Czech underground. They were very outspoken against the government during this time. They were a band heavily influenced by Frank Zappa and the Velvet Underground, who provoked with their nonconformist attitude and vulgarity. Their anti-government lyrics and concerts led them to be banned by communist leaders, and eventually they were arrested. The citizens were quite displeased. Educated citizens drafted Charter 77, a petition reminding the communist leaders of basic human rights that were being ignored. Charter 77 was one of the final hits to the communist government before its collapse. What the Plastic People of the Universe and Charter 77 did was show us that by having a dissident voice, you can fight for what you believe in. After communism's demise, bands could now speak freely about their hate for communism. What this led to was many changes in music. One large change was the impact on Romani wedding music. Romas are commonly known as gypsies in today's society. They went from having very traditional music played to having untraditional music present. And here I have two examples of the styles of music played before and during communism, and also after communism. First is a clip from YouTube depicting the styles before and during. Here, you can tell the music is acoustic and slow, fitting the traditional model of music at weddings. Now in the second one, you will hear something entirely different. The music is much more upbeat and fast, with an electric guitar and other amplified instruments present. An article I read by Margaret Basinger suggests that these changes in gypsy wedding music were brought on by the newfound freedoms present at the end of the communist period. Everyone seemed to be ready for a change. Through my research and our research as a group, I found that censorship is exactly what created dissident music in Czechoslovakia. It gave people a reason to speak up, and dissident music became that outlet of self-expression. Though dissident music didn't solve the problem by itself, what it did do, and always will do, is help people deal with the problem at hand.
Just as religion and music were impacted by censorship, so was Czechoslovakian literature. Authors were required to write communist propaganda for the party, and if they strayed from the communist belief system, they faced persecution or lifelong bans on writing. However, some Czech authors used literary style, magical realism to evade censorship and criticize life from the time. After Czechoslovakia's fall to communism in 1948, the government immediately enforced censorship of literature through state-controlled publishing houses and issued lists of liberally prohibited literature to all of the public libraries. In 1953, the main board of publishing control was created to oversee all aspects of the publishing process and to have literature published. An author had to be in the new writers' unions. Of course, to be a member of the new writers' unions, one had to be labeled as a loyal communist. However, in 1967, censorship was ended in a series of communist reforms, but after the Prague Spring or the Soviet invasion of